Welcome to Beyond Time Signatures. So today with us we have Oscar Jakobsson and Sinastal from Sweden.
Woo!
Welcome to the
Yes.
podcast, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
How? Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's nice to finally have you guys. Is it possible for Oscar, yourself, and Sina to just briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Oscar Jacobson. I'm the vocalist in Silverlake. Been doing vocals since 2018. That's when I kind of started practicing doing vocals. I just, I don't know, I found an interest in doing vocals after playing drums and guitar for a couple years. But then I just fell in love with the heavy genre, especially deathcore, and just heard like crazy vocalists like back from the deathcore days, like Mitch Lucker and Phil Bozeman, and I just
Nice.
instantly was like, I wanna do vocals. Like this is so much, in my opinion, so much cooler than, or I mean, sometimes I feel like it's a lot cooler than instruments, and then sometimes I'm like, I want to play drums, but yeah, I just love vocals, and ever since I found deathcore vocals, I was just sold immediately.
Wonderful.
I'm Sina. I play guitar in Silverlake Murder, and I mix and master and produce with in Gravitas Audio. And I also have a solo project called Volnad. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. And it's just coincidentally so happens that the vocalist of Holnad is also Oscar.
Yes, that's
Yeah, so
correct.
that's a little band incest type
Yeah.
situation. But
Band
yeah, it is
incest
what it
is,
is.
yeah.
Yes.
That's
I
kind
mean,
of
it
crazy.
seems to be a like a thing in Sweden with band incest, but and now we've joined the club as well, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's how it goes.
wonderful. Yeah, so that means that you guys are the next big thing, wink wink.
Well, I
I
mean,
should hope
hopefully.
so.
I mean, yeah, we're working our asses off. We're trying really hard. We're just trying to, put out music that we love and just keep on grinding. So yeah, hopefully.
That's awesome to hear. I'm just very curious that how did you guys meet? Firstly, like you both, and then like uh perhaps the band members too. But let's start with you guys first. So how did you guys know each other?
Yeah, so I think Sina can tell our origin story of the two of us, since I think it was kind of him
Yeah.
uh, that was the catalyst for it.
Yeah. All right. So basically, the band Alt, as we say in Swedish, they have a guitar player named Olle, and him and we go kind of back. We've known each other since 2021. I mean, that's not very far back, but still. And one day he just hit me up because he knew I was like trying to sort of find my way through music and didn't really know anyone in my city. And he just said, "Yo, there's these guys. They have this project called Drained in Stockholm. You got to hit them up." So I just hit them up and started chatting with them, and that's sort of how we got to know each other. And yeah, it was just me who hit them up because Olle had recommended me checking them out because it's not every day you find people who are doing the same thing as you but are like the same age because all of us in the band we are pretty much the same age.
I
So
see,
yeah,
I
that's
see.
how that
And
worked. I slid into their DMs.
nice, nice.
Yeah, pretty
And was
much.
Drain a hardcore band?
Yeah, so Drained was a project between me and our other guitarist Theo Masquero. So him and I, we had a project called Drained, which was like a hardcore, deathcore kind of two man band, just internet project. Like we didn't play any shows, or like we just wrote songs and put them out as a two-man thing. I did the vocals and we wrote the songs together, and we just did that. We only released like 7 songs um, before we started to be like, we want to play in a real band. So then we quit Drained. We changed our name, And so that's pretty much the background story of Drained. And so yeah, so Sina hit me up about doing vocals for Walnut tracks, and yeah, I was just happy to do more vocals for more cool stuff. So I was down immediately.
So, what was your initial reaction when you heard Walnut demos? Because I know you, Oscar. I know you personally because of Sina's project,
Yeah.
and then it so happened that Silver Lake Murder was formed and like etc. So, I'm very curious about what was your initial reaction about Sina's composing.
I mean, I had been listening to a lot of that kind of chaotic Thal style. Like I've been listening to HLB and Viljarda for a long time. I've been listening to a bunch of crazy deathcore bands for a long time. So it wasn't like I was familiar in the genre. I recognized the style, but I really like the first thing I reacted to was like these songs are very very hectic and chaotic and like very over the top, you know, like but in a good way because like that's like how the music is supposed to be, like super crazy Thal styles, which I enjoy a lot. So I was just like, yeah, this is awesome. Like this is he wants vocals on this stuff. Like yeah, I'm down, 100%.
And as a drummer, I would bet you were super offended when you heard how
Yeah, I
unplayable
mean,
the first tracks were.
well, the drums on the first tracks are
Pretty garbage.
pretty unplayable. That's I mean I reacted to how, of course, like how programmed it sounded, but I wasn't like put off by it or anything like that. I'd recognize stuff, and I knew like there are drummers who could probably pull this off,
Yeah,
but
except for like the parts where there was like a Portnoy fill, but there's still like crash stuff going
yeah.
on.
So like there's like you need like four arms to pull that off, and I'm like okay, but
I mean, that's what
it's
happens when you don't meet other musicians. Because I like never actually played with anyone before.
yeah, and you're also, I mean, you're not a drummer, so I mean, we drummers are the ultimate people who know like how to play, and so it's completely understandable. And I was like again, I wasn't like I was just shocked at how like well like this random dude who just wanted vocals, or I mean, you were a random dude back then.
Yeah, I was.
Uh, that sent me the tracks, and I was like, whoa, like this is actually very good written. This is well produced. This is like really good. Like I was like, I'm excited to put vocals on something that doesn't sound like crap.
Yeah,
So that
I
was
see.
that was really fun.
and it was likewise from my part when Olle had recommended me check them out. One of the first things I reacted to was that, well, Oscar's voice isn't like your typical like Cookie Monster low and whiny high like every other vocalist is trying to do. He has like a very unique timbre, and I was like, I have to get this before anyone else does, like before everyone starts using him. And case in point, he's done vocals on bigger projects now, like Mirar,
Yep.
for
Yep.
example. So I wanted to like be ahead of the curve before the like Oscarflation is gonna happen.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean,
yeah.
that's true. That's true.
Because
So
he does
like,
have a very unique voice.
yeah, absolutely. And I was very happy to hear the Mirar track. So how did that happen? Like, did Leo just hit you up?
Yeah, I mean, after Sina recommended me to him,
Yeah,
Lovely.
after Sina recommended me, then he hit me up and he sent me a couple demos of some tracks, and I had heard Mirar before because I found Mirar when they released their first track. I think it's Lisette.
yeah.
Um, and I was like, I because in that time when Lisette came out, I was like really into Thal, like I was super like into that stuff, and Theo was as well, or like yeah, kind of into it as well. So I showed him like this is fucking sick. Like I don't even know who this is. Like it just says Mirar and this song, and it's just this picture of this or of an artist that I recognize the artwork he used because it's an artist that I really like, Gustav Dorea, who illustrated a lot of biblical stuff. And I found the track. I was like, holy shit, this sounds crazy. So I had been listening to Mirar for a while, and then after doing Walnut vocals, and I knew, or I think I knew that you Sina knew Leo, or you had talked for a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, So then one day he was like, "Yeah, Sina recommended you to me, and do you want to do vocals on these tracks?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." So he showed me a couple demos. The first one was the Deluge that we released, but I did do vocals, or there is a vocal version of one of the tracks that's on their EP, Mare. So they decided to go with an instrumental version for the entire EP, but I did do vocals on one of them. So maybe one day you'll hear it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe on a deluxe
Um,
version or something like that.
Maybe a
Who
deluxe
knows?
version of their upcoming album. There might be something. I don't know. So yeah, that's pretty much how that happened. And me and Leo and Marius were very happy with the results.
Yeah, dude,
So
the track was fire. Like
thank
actually,
you, thank you. Yeah, I was also very happy with the both the lyrics and the vocal performance because the guys gave me a lot of creative freedom and like inspiration for the track. So it was. I mean, I just sat down and wrote lyrics like within a day, and I was done because I was so inspired by their work.
that's awesome, man. That's really wonderful.
Thank you.
Um, I want you to ask about how did Silver Lake murder? Firstly, the name. Is it a reference to some murder mystery, like in a novel or something like that, or
No, no, not at all. So how the name happened was that I think this was probably in the beginning of 2023 or something. I was just sitting and playing Apex Legends as I usually did
okay?
back then. And I was talking with Theo because we wanted to start a real band. And I was just talking with him, and we were like bouncing around names and stuff. And I had a list of band names because the thing was that we had Drained before,
Right.
and we noticed that that's not really a unique name. Like there are a lot of bands called Drained out there, or some version of it, or the exact same. And we were like, we don't want any confusion, or we just didn't feel it was unique enough. So we were like, okay, let's change the name. We just leave everything behind from that and just start fresh. So I was just playing Apex one day, writing down like words and names and whatever I could come up with that I thought sounded cool. So there is literally no backstory behind the name except me just playing like video games and then being like, I just thought like Silverlake, and then I tried a couple like words after Silverlake, which ultimately ended up with murder. And I was like, I just hit Theo up and was like, "Do you think that's cool? Like, does that sound cool?" And he was like, "Yeah, it sounds cool." And at that point, when he said, "Yeah, that's good," I was like, "Okay, let's just go with that," because I'm sick and tired of coming up with names. I
Yeah,
hate coming up with band names. It's the worst fucking thing in the world. I'm not so sure if I can swear on here. Can I swear on here?
you can do whatever you want, man. Like
Okay.
Yes, well, he'll
it's
just
not
bleep
like
it out.
yeah.
All
I
right,
mean, not
thanks.
no kids are watching us,
No,
so
that's good. So yeah, I pretty much felt that I was really sick and tired of coming up with band names. And when he gave me like a green light for Silver Lake Murder, I was like, done. That's it. Let's not try to come up with any names because that's good and we liked it. And there was no one important thing was there was no other bands that had that name or anything close to it.
awesome.
So then we were like, perfect. Let's just go with that. And whatever anyone thinks about the name, people have said it's a horrible name. It's a good name. We're like, we don't care. Like every band name, if you really analyze it, like sucks. So who cares?
Yeah, I mean Lincoln Park. Like, what's Lincoln Park? Like, is it actually a park or
I
like
have
what's
no
up?
idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
exactly.
I don't want to be the actually guy, but there is a park called Lincoln Park,
I know, like
president.
Lincoln, but
Yeah,
it's they had like an ad lib
yeah,
as a
Yeah,
Lincoln,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I know about that. Why did I say that murder mission halls? Because like there is actually a place in America called Silver Lake.
I
yeah,
think it's in LA.
So
yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, right.
And
So
if you,
that's
yeah,
the
yeah. So and if you Google Silver Lake Murder, they're like, you can find like an article from like a murder, like an actual crime that happened in the area called Silver Lake, which is like it's just like a random article, but there's nothing to it. Like our name is nothing to do with it. It was just literally something that I just came up with in my head, and I asked Theo, "Do you like it?" He said yes, and I was like, "Great! Now I don't have to think about band names anymore. We're done. Let's just go with that." And then there was nothing more to it.
lovely, lovely, and How like was it the Drained project that eventually evolved into Silver Lake's first version?
Yes, yes. So to kind of not give away too much, but at the same time, like fill you in a little bit. Our EP Still Unknown was actually written after the tracks that are gonna come out now, or some of them. So me and Theo had written a lot from our current release that we're planning out, uh, which includes Pariah, our latest
Right.
track. But that track was written before Still
Oh.
Unknown. Pariah was actually the first track that I ever wrote after or like us releasing the 7 tracks for Drained. I had stopped writing music after Drained for like a couple months. Then I started again, and Pariah was one of the first demos that I came up, or the first demo that I came up with. So that song, like, it's so nice to actually have released that, because it's been sitting on my computer for, I mean, I don't know, like 2 years or more, like so long, just sitting there, and I'm like, this is gonna be the first single from that record, and now it's finally out, so that feels really good. But so yeah, so everything kind of transitioned. Um, like I said, I had like a little bit of time. Like me and Theo were like pretty drained, you could say, from writing music for like an actual project that we're gonna release tracks for. So we were like starting to write side stuff and like music that we at first didn't feel fit like Drained or Silverlake Murder at first. So we were like trying very different things, very different styles. But that style has slowly been, sinking into our
Silver
actual
Lake.
sounds to Silverlake. So now you're gonna hear that style, even though from the get go we thought that like, this is just gonna be like side stuff, side songs, whatever, like a side project that no one hears, or it's just gonna sit on a computer. But now you're actually gonna get to hear it. So
Hell yeah,
that's
dude.
also a
That's
lot of fun.
awesome. That's so cool. Uh, Also, I would love for you to like introduce all the band members and who plays what.
Yeah, so I'm the vocalist. Sina is the guitarist, or I could say the lead guitarist, pretty much our lead
I do
guitarist.
the Wheedly Wheedly.
Yes. So I mean, we don't have like a bunch of solos or anything like that, but we do have some like leads or background stuff that Sina does very well. So he's doing the leads, and then we have E01, who's our drummer, and then we have Marcus, who's our bassist, and then we have Theo, who's our other guitarist.
Yeah. And
So yeah.
yeah,
He
and
does the chug
I
chug
mean, this
chug.
is a personal question, but why do you guys always look so mean? Like, you guys are very wholesome and sweet, but why do you guys look so mean in the album? Like, artwork, like the photographs and stuff.
Yeah, I think we're
Band
we all we
persona?
I mean, yeah, maybe a little bit, but I think it also kind of like when we took the picture, like the one that we're using now, it just kind of falls into place. Like when we just stand and take a picture, we just we just like it just comes naturally to us to like look really serious. And we also feel like, yeah, we want to like, let's be tough guys, so then we do that, and we find it's like it looks pretty good. We
Yeah,
find it's
I mean,
fun.
that's
I mean, yeah,
badass.
yeah.
I mean, it's a very
So
good genre if you don't, because smiling for the camera is actually pretty difficult, I must say, for most people. So in our genre, it's pretty nice not having to smile. So it
yeah,
just lends itself, because it's way easier to just like drain every muscle like
it just
this.
yeah,
Because now I look kind of mean.
yeah,
Yep.
pretty
And
much.
that's how that happens. But we're not
And
mean
Sina.
people.
Miss.
No.
So Sina, you joined the band after everyone else. So I
Yeah.
just want to know from you, like, how did that happen, and what responsibilities as a band member did you assume after joining?
Um. So yeah, I joined in. Well, I started playing with them in January and became an official member in March, I believe, March
Yes.
2nd
Yeah.
or March 1st or something,
Yeah.
right after the first show Silverlake ever played. Um, and what it's evolved to over time, I guess, is that I play guitar, and like I play guitar and I handle a lot of the band's finances and
I
like
see.
in the business stuff, like behind the hood. And so because Oscar is like very much the communication face of the band, he emails a lot, and I like to do the like shadowy stuff. Like recently, we had just um, booked a show, I guess you could say, like ourselves, and I liked I was the one who was in charge of like ticket sales and the economics because I surprisingly I'm pretty good at that stuff sometimes, which is weird. So yeah, economics and guitar I would say is my main responsibility. I mean, we all help out with stuff from that time to time, like writing, and me and Oscar sometimes come like help out with mixing a little bit. But I'd say on my end, it's become guitar and economics.
I
Would you
see.
say that's accurate?
Yeah, 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 for sure. I mean, it's pretty much like being, like you said, like and I've been doing managing the bands for I mean all this time, even with Drained when we were trying to do stuff. I would just email people and talk to people, and I'm still doing that. So I'm pretty much like you know a manager, I guess you could say. Like we're all self-managed. We don't have anyone helping us. So it's pretty much me and Sina managing the band in our own different ways. Um,
Yeah, because
and
you're like
yeah,
very you're a very amazing communicator in that sense. You're very
thank you.
concise, and I think it comes from your line of work. I would assume, and just a natural talent for it. But
Yeah.
he's very good at like just I don't know, just talking to like people and getting a point across. Like if you want to get something done or have someone do something for you, he's like the one who describes it very well and gets a point across. Like,
Thanks. I mean, yeah, I could say the same about Sina and numbers, which is just my weakness. And then, so I'm blessed that there's someone who can help me out with that side of stuff because that's also managing. So, but it's
true.
a lot of numbers involved and a lot of stuff that I had never been. I had never worked with before. But Sina were there. I was so blessed that Sina could help me out with that,
And
and
it's
also,
entirely Sweden's fault because our like the way Sweden works, if we're gonna go on a tangent, is if you are a company or a business entity or whatever, there's a lot of I would metaphorically say it's like eating something but eating it this way because there's a lot of like stuff that some I would argue is like pretty arbitrary and unnecessary. There's like pretty much back and forth. Like in there's like for example VAT tax. In another country, you just give your company number and the tax will be written off, deducted from the
Yeah.
purchase. In Sweden, you actually pay the tax first, then you declare that tax, and then you get it back into your account every quarter, and it's supposed to like even itself out. So if you and it's very like it's just as a way to get people to actually declare their income. It's like in Europe we have this system with plastic bottles. There's an extra charge if you buy like a can of Coke or a bottle of Coke. It's like one SEK extra, just because you'll get that back if you recycle the bottle. So in a similar sense, that's a way to get people to recycle. The VAT system here is just a way to get people to declare their income. So what ends up happening, it gets very inaccessible and very difficult to actually keep track of everything
yeah.
because it didn't it took me like a year to just make sense of how everything works, and
I
I
see.
wouldn't wish that upon anyone who doesn't find it interesting. So I'm happy to help.
Uh, I'm very curious. Like, Sina, are there from your experience of managing finances, are there any hidden costs that you perhaps overlooked, or like people in general overlook in a band setting
Oh
that
yeah.
arise? Please
Oh
let
yeah.
me know what they are. I would love
Well,
to know.
for us there's a lot of like banking costs for starters. Like
Yeah.
we when we started out, we didn't know that there's a yearly fee for because there's like this app here called Swish. It's like Venmo, you could say.
Okay.
There's basically a $0.1 fee for every payment you receive, and we have to everyone basically uses that app to like buy merch at a show. So that's one of those fees. Like it costs yearly to make it to have international payments enabled. That's one thing. And then in general, just connecting to a bank, because you need a bank for finances. That was $200 basically,
Oh,
and just for starters, and then $100 every year, and then there's a little bit added for that Venmo app that I mentioned. And so there's a lot of those fees, and they pile up pretty fast. And then for like a starting band, when they slowly transition into being white collar, so to say, paying taxes, then some of them forget when they sell like a T-shirt that 25% of that is tax. So there's a lot of tax that people overlook because you're not taught that in school. You just
Nope.
know
true, true.
there is a tax is a concept, but you don't know how much tax there is, and that's for better or worse. Like some tax is very generous, like ticket sales. It's only 6% if we're talking VAT tax. But yeah, but if you make a profit and you want to like take that profit out, it's a 33% tax. So basically, my greatest advice about hidden costs would be write everything down. Banks want your money,
Yes.
and taxes everywhere. There's
Yes.
taxes everywhere. Nothing in this world, at least in here, is like untaxable.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah,
tax on
maybe if
everything.
you guys shifted to Dubai, things would be different.
Yeah,
Very, very
very different.
different.
Just offshore everything.
And Oscar, a follow-up question to you. In your experience of like reaching out to people, have you found that writing an email a certain way, or like making sure that certain points exist in your email has helped you convert those emails into an actual leads? And if yes, then can you please share some details?
For sure. I mean, it's been, I've actually been, thinking about that. Like, I've never been too much into like thinking about it from like a business perspective. I just always used, like, I've always been, self-aware that I can use my ability to speak pretty well and write pretty well to get my point across and be very compelling. But I never thought about it like in a business aspect. I just thought like, well, if I want to get my point across, I need to, just communicate it in a way like just with smarts, like just get my point across in a good way. And like my emails, like to labels or management companies or whatever, could be like back in the day, like 2 years ago, would be horrendous. But now they've improved a lot, and I've learned which points need to, what people want to hear, like in the start, and like the selling points and what you need to convey. So, because I mean, this is like a very saturated genre. This is a very an industry where people's attention is like pretty much impossible to get. So, like, people, they don't care about you or your product or whatever you have, because there's always someone else that can provide the exact same thing, which they might find just like a percent better than your thing, and then you just okay, and then you go away. So it's pretty hard to that, because that's like the number one thing, like keeping people's attention. And it's the same thing, but even worse when you're speaking to uh, other managers, labels, venue people, whatever. Like, people don't respond, people don't care. They they might reply and then tell you that they're going to do this or this or this, but then they don't get back to you. And just, that's like, and I understand that, like, people have lives. These are human beings. Like, everyone has their own thing going, everyone has their life, and everyone's doing their own thing. But yeah, when you start to, like, you start to see a pattern. Like, some people do say that they care and want to help you, but I've always been very like, okay, let's just take this with a grain of salt. We're gonna keep doing our thing and keep grinding out, and never expect anyone to give us anything, like nothing. Like, if we want something, if we want to get something accomplished, if we want to release an album, we'll release an album by ourselves. Like, we we want to collaborate, we want to do a lot of things. But if, like, people tell us that they're, if people ignore us, if they don't want to do this or this, then we're just going to do our own thing. We're just never going to quit because people are just like not responding or want to collaborate or whatever. Like, we don't care about that. So but yeah, like you said, the to get your point across when talking to people, both like emails or calls or whatever, like it's something that I've had to improve upon for sure a lot. And I mean, it's difficult to say like what I've done to do that, but I just noticed that my ability to get my point across and communicate has gotten better for sure.
I see. So I have two things to say. Firstly, that what you said about, like, not depending on somebody else, even for, like, some sort of, any sort of like work that can potentially put a halt on your guys' momentum as a band in terms of like releasing videos, music, or anything else. That's really, like, the way, because even for me, I have had, like, opportunities that I had to, like, say no to, just so that I am not, like, sacrificing on my momentum with my music, because it's really hard, like, when you care, when you put so much effort into something and it gets halted by reasons that are not bound by you. That's
Yes.
more sucky, because if it's bound by you, then you take full responsibility of it, that hey, it was my
Yes.
bad, I fucked up, but it's fine, right? And so that, and secondly, is that while you draft emails, like, usually, from my experience of, like, reaching out to people and stuff, people want some sort of, like, value in return, that like it's mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
So is there something that you do to, like, get that across as well, that if you help us, this is how we will help you, like, in any way?
Yeah, so like what we're doing now, that because we obviously want to, collaborate with the label for our record. um and the way that I try to make it more interesting for those people are that I'm uh pointing out that, everything's like, they like things like everything's already finished, we already have a finished product that's able to ship like tomorrow. You don't have to spend a dime on producing on a studio or writing or mixing, because we do everything by ourselves, we have everything ready, we have all the equipment, we have everything to mix a record and write a record from scratch at our homes. That sounds amazing. Also, that, just getting the point across that we truly believe in the music, that it would be, you know in our mutual interest to collaborate on an album, because we feel like the sound is on par, like we feel that the sound is worthy of that representation. So that's just a couple points that I try to convey and inform about, that we are so very self-efficient, we're very effective, and we're always ready to do whatever, whether that's write, record, play a show. Like, we are always on standby, we're always very very like hungry to do things. So when we're given an opportunity, we're like, we just pick that up immediately and we just go with it.
Yeah, that's really awesome, and yeah, I mean, you do say things in a very compelling way, and that's really awesome, man. Like, you
Thank you.
convinced me. If I was a record label, I would give you a deal right now.
Thanks.
And one important thing I think here to note is that Sina doesn't live in Stockholm, but he happily travels like all the time so that he could be at band practice and stuff. And
Yes.
that just shows that, everyone in the band is, like,
I don't have a
on
life.
dude. Who does have a
Who
life? I mean,
does?
come
I
on,
mean,
yeah. But really, man, it's really awesome to see the creative dynamic. So, Sina, this question is for you. Like, whenever you or Theo come up with a riff, so, like, how do you, because since everyone in the band is, like, very super involved in the creative process, so how do you guys, like, jump onto an idea and make it into a song, or how does that happen?
Well, it would. It's funny because the process, I would say, from what I've witnessed, has evolved a lot, and right now we're at a point where it's changing. The thing is, the main riff writer in the band has always been, and I think probably will be, is Oscar. But the thing now is, what we figured out was that if like Oscar has an idea, he kind of doesn't want to like finish them anymore, because last time that we all wrote in a room, it's really funny, was we had this idea that we had come up with together in our at rehearsal, and then we were at his house, and it was a really shitty day, especially for me. We were not feeling our best, but we still ended up writing like what most of us in the band regard right now as the best finished Silverlake song.
Yes.
Because what ends up happening is that what ended up happening was that I had the guitar and Oscar was at the computer, and the guys were sitting on Oscar's bed, and I was playing something, and then there was a bit of pushback from Marcus, and then Theo grabbed the guitar and he had this riff, and then E01 said something about a fill, and then it's just completely different. So I guess how we'd go about it now is probably let's get together in a room, but mostly it's just we'd ask Oscar because he just knows how it's supposed to sound.
I mean, yeah. So I've been writing like most of our material. I think on our record there is. I think Theo wrote one of the songs, almost the entirety of it, and I just wrote the last breakdown of it, and then the rest of the songs I wrote, and then there was one that Sine is describing. We wrote at my place after, or also in the rehearsal space. So how that went by was like, and it's so interesting because that was the first song that we really like sat down in a studio environment, which is my bedroom, and wrote a song together. Uh, and even though like the dynamics, because we had never written in that sort of environment, which is I think one of the reasons why which is like very difficult to which is there were like, it had its ups and downs, and it was difficult at some points, but it's so amazing how like even though that was the case, the track that came out like was arguably our best song we've ever written, or like yeah, one of the best Silverlake songs ever, and it was just so interesting. Like, okay, so if that's what we can come up with on like a bad day, how can it sound like if we're all just hyped and in a good mood and everything just flows by? Then it's just going to be like that. Just to me, it feels like we're gonna make a shit ton of more bangers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
it sounds different. There is in that song. There's like this part where our bass player Marcus had like he told me to like do a pick slide thing, and there's a pick slide on one side, and then there's feedback on the other side, because that's something we tracked the guitars with like speaker monitoring, and what happens is there's feedback if you put a guitar in front of like a monitor.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of feedback on the record when me and Theo track the guitars.
Yes, there
and
is.
and there's like pick slides, and there's shit you wouldn't come up with in front of a computer, because that's like I can now hear when something's written by one guitarist in his bedroom with headphones on the
Yep.
computer, and I can also hear when it's like five people in a room, which is like what that song is, because there's like this part because Theo wrote this riff that it's like it's like this chromatic tremolo picked thing, and then there's a fifth harmony on the right side, and I do like a lead tremolo drone, and Marcus does a completely different bass line underneath it, and it just sounds real. I don't want to be cocky, but it sounds real. It sounds like something you wouldn't hear today, like
Yeah.
how I heard metal in 2010 when like CLA was still mixing and people were in a room. I don't want to say Slipknot because I don't want to be like all Beatlesy and we're so huge, but like that's how I would imagine like the first record went down, when they were all in a room and just playing their instruments.
Yep.
And that my poor Evertune guitar gets passed around so much, but it's just amazing when because even Marcus, he's a bass player, but he can play guitar. There's a riff that he literally wrote because he showed us like how to palm mute in a specific way that I haven't heard a lot in our genre. So it's just like an amazing song. And there's this other song on the album as well that's semi that way, only it wasn't written in the same room, but we all came up with ideas like that lead part that I played, that tremolo thing. And then I know you and Marcus talked a lot about that song, like how to do, like essentially you guys had the idea figured out. And that one with the song we all wrote in the room, those two have this like I don't know, they sound different than the rest of them in
It's
some way.
just, I think, especially the one that we all wrote in studio together. Just there is also something aggressive about it because we all love this genre so much, but we all love like different small
Aspects of it.
subgenres and aspects of it. So when it all came together, we all just brought like the most intense and like aggressive and dark parts of all those subgenres and just made it into. And it's so funny how you mentioned the way that Marcus palm muted so differently, which translated into like becoming like, in my opinion, like one of, or maybe the heaviest breakdown on the entire record, just because of that, just because of like a different technique of just palm mutes, like, and
Just
just a
because a
different
different
way.
person had a different thing in mind, who's
Yeah,
not this one the one guitarist in the bedroom.
it just became like the absolute heaviest part of the entire record. And every time I hear it, I'm like, and we've played it live, and every single time,
It's
and
just
I don't do any vocals on it or just like a small part, and every time we play that specific part live, it just blows my mind
yeah, the
how,
crowd loves it too.
yeah, the crowd goes nuts as well. So there you go. Just leave the guitar to the bass player, and you got the heaviest stuff.
But I think
Yeah.
already there is some of that in your writing as well, because you are a drummer. In like first and foremost, you are a drummer because you started out playing drums, and that translates into your guitar playing in your melodic sense. Because Oscar never, like you and me, pray, he never sat down and played scales up and down, so he doesn't have the same, like, because we will arguably, or not you because you're much more advanced than me harmonically, but I tend to only go for like Phrygian dominant or Aeolian. But Oscar doesn't have those scales ingrained, so he just thinks freely and he plays like a drummer. So he goes to like this like Lydian variant with an augmented two, and just like plays what he hears in such a different way, which is already a reason why Silverlake sounds so unique. So combine that with like all the different influences that we have, like for example, our bass player Marcus and our drummer E01, they're into like a lot of hardcore punk and grind, and E01 is also into like Tool and prog and like they both like Nine Inch
Everything. I
Nails,
mean, one is
everything.
into everything. There's not a single. When we start talking about bands, he's like, "Yeah, I heard that, heard that, heard that," and he
Yeah.
likes all of it. He likes every single. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
and
they're not
yes,
like me and Theo, because me and Theo kind of are way more like conservative with what we like. But I'm the worst in the band at that. But still. And then there's like Oscar, who takes a lot of influence from Slipknot and like even early Suicide Silence. Like I know you love the
yes,
Cleansing,
yes,
and
it's my
then
favorite
Hell yeah.
record.
yeah, so it's like very different influences coming together, and that song really encapsulates that. Like I'll never get over how that pick slide is something I haven't heard in years, because people just don't think like that anymore. It's all about it's all written in Guitar Pro. To be honest,
Pretty
it's
much,
all
yeah.
it's
Bro,
Guitar Pro
yes.
first, and then it's GGD One Kid Wonder, and with Archetype Nolly or Pliny or anything, and then it just you can like hear that, and it's pretty. Like I've tried to move away from that, but even I've fallen foul to doing that with like the first Walnut tracks, and that's something I think isn't there with Silverlake. It doesn't sound like a computer. It sounds like a drummer playing drums on guitar in
Yes.
augmented Lydian, and the rest of us guys just like being like, do this and do that and do this big slide.
Well, I think the bigger issue is that the tools that we have, instead of it making things limitless, they actually limit us more.
Oh
And
hell
I
yeah!
think that's
Yes.
the subtext of what Sina is trying to say here. That obviously the tools are awesome, bro. Like, it's helping a lot more people to write, but it's also making people restrictive of what they can do with those instruments. And bass is not just something that follows drum kicks all the time, and bass is not something that just follows the rhythm guitar but an octave lower, but it has its own, like, like soul to and this is a secret thing. I mean, but Sina and I are I mean, for the people, like, I think Oscar, you might know of this, but Sina is helping me produce my next song. And the first demo that he heard was like, bro, you write such like a guitarist. And he was true. Like, a lot of my riffs were very, like, guitar riff focused and
Yeah.
not me. But then, like, he shaped around this song so much that it had like a euphoria in me. And yeah, I mean, then there's like a badass feel in the breakdown. And everything, and like even though it's programmed, but it doesn't sound like it's programmed because
Yeah.
it's being viewed from many different perspectives, like you guys have in the band. And one thing that I really like about Silver Lake is the fact that heaviness is not something that comes from being low tuned, but heaviness comes from the mindset in a way.
Yes.
Because if you have guys have heard "No More Tears" by Ozzy Osbourne, that sounds heavy as hell, and it's in drop D. So it means that you don't have to tune low to be heavy. You just have to have that energy, and you
Yes.
guys have that hardcore energy in your band,
Thank
and
you.
I can literally feel it. Like, your guys' drum literally sounds like it's being played at 127, but it doesn't sound like it's been played at 127 programmed, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes.
And yeah, so like there has to be some core ideologies that you guys have as a band, that okay, we are this hardcore band, and these are certain aspects that everyone agrees on. So I would love to know, like, what aspects of heaviness, or like, the core beliefs of the band are that has led to such a unique sound, like through your
Tell them about the
eventual progress.
pre-knockout thing, the knockout before the knockout.
So I think, yeah. So in terms of writing, uh, for me, like, well, I just so I'll get to what Sina said, but it's also like, I don't know, like I go a lot on feeling. Like I want it to feel heavy. I want it to feel dark and oppressive. That's how I want it to feel when you hear the music. And it's not like, and I know, like, for example, Buster Odeholm does this. He feels the same way, but he goes the Thal direction of that. He wants it to be oppressive and dark in that way. But I've always felt like the heavy death, hardcore, and deathcore, like that kind of genre, also has its darkness and its heaviness in its own way. Just like Slipknot did in Iowa and 99, the 99 record, and also Suicide Silence with the Cleansing. So the main thing for me is that, and I always come to the band and say, like, I want it to be darker. I want it to be darker and darker and darker, and like I just want it to fall into an abyss. But but then they stop me and like, okay, but let's just keep it like heavy as well, and not just like doom and gloom. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good idea. But like Sina said, I think one pretty interesting. So this is my little secret, or like how I view my writing, is that, in boxing, if you know boxing, you always, or not always, but sometimes you deliver a jab, which is like the small jab before you deliver the knockout punch, right?
Yep.
So my ideology and like my philosophy behind at least my writing, or like how I want to deliver tracks, especially like considering like parts of a track, like the intro and how that goes into the first verse and how that goes into the breakdown. The transitions are what's so important. Like I think that's what bands or musicians that want to develop their writing and become better, please analyze your transitions, because your transitions are what's keeping your tracks from being part to being a complete track, where the transition is the part where you get jabbed in the face, and then the next part comes in, and that's the knockout. So for example, for a breakdown, the jab is the important part, because you can knock someone out, but if you deliver that little jab, then you can just really hammer that in. And so that's how I think about it. Like every breakdown needs that little jab, like the little fist to the face right before you deliver that knockout. So that's how I view my writing. So that's pretty much like my ideology, or something like I just came up in my head
Bro, that's
like a
fucking
couple years
awesome,
like
because
a
a
couple years ago.
breakdown a breakdown is only as good as the part leading up to it, right?
Yes.
And that's why Periphery is so amazing, but every Periphery clone is garbage, because Periphery knows about transitions. And I know Oscar doesn't like Periphery, but still, it's like,
I have respect for them though.
yeah, because every, like, when all the musicians who clone shit, but they don't fucking transition, or like, it's not songwriting, it's just rip off part, and then paste together. Which
Yeah,
is
you can
something in
tell. You
metal,
can tell.
and it's only metal, because I've never met a trap producer or a beat maker or a rapper who isn't a songwriter. It's only in this genre where people can be riff writers and not songwriters and get away with it. Because like
Yeah,
if some
that's
of the
wild.
song structures people get away with in this genre were in pop, they'd be absolutely eviscerated by their fellow pop colleagues, because they pay so much attention to transitions and what chords go where. And I think in Silverlake there's that same respect for the song. I'm not saying we're pop, but I'm but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I totally see what you guys mean. It sounds like an actual song and not just a riff salad. Like you guys pick your moments of when you guys wanna be like a caveman, like filth, and you guys pick your moments of when you guys wanna show what you guys are built of, like in terms of technicalities and like drum fills and etc. So I totally get what you mean. And yeah, man, what you said about that our genre offers a place for people to be riff writers too, then songwriters is a matter of concern. Because what I think is like with pop and stuff, like the song actually makes you feel something. It has a certain like vibe associated to it, like summer vibe or a dance vibe or
Yeah,
something. So it makes you groove to it. But in metal it's headbanging. Like headbanging is unanimous and it's universal. Like you can't be like, I'm 5% headbanging to this song, I'm 50%. It's just headbanging. Like you don't have any buffer there. So I feel like personally from observation, that is what makes people like unable to differentiate a song from a riff.
yeah. I do, however, think there is like a lot of different vibes you can choose from in metal as like a palette, which comes from like early records, depending on what you want to convey. Like, is this song like is this song sad angry or mad angry or insane angry or focused angry? It's all angry, but like you can convey a lot of emotions based on like chords and stuff. And the top, like let's take the a hit like Sabrina Carpenter's Espresso. Instant summer vibe because of the chords and the instrument choices and the mix, and then they amplify that with the music video, and you can tell every part in that song has been meticulously engineered and thought of. Like the line, "That's that me espresso," it makes you think about that. It makes you think about her and espresso and the sound. It's just meticulous because there's so much intent behind it. And that's something in metal that I find that the greatest bands, you can hear their intent instantly.
Yes.
It's something like that Joao was talking about like way back as well, like the
Yes.
intent of something.
Yes.
And I can hear Oscar and the other guys with what their intent is in such a like laser focused way. Like when Oscar wants something to sound like, you know that demo with like the lead part before like the that thing, there's like an intent there for it to sound creepy without revealing
Oh yeah,
too
yeah,
much.
yeah, 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 yeah,
and,
yeah,
and then when you describe the bully riff,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, 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 yeah.
that's also like, I
So
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's that's the thing, and also it's so funny how you mention it because that's the thing. Like when you hear a great record, like you hear what the artist wanted to convey, like their intent, and
Oh yeah.
and like you hear, like for example, Iowa Slipknot, like they wanted it to be the angriest record in the world,
Mhm.
and that's what it became because that was their intent. This is going to be the angriest record ever made, and it became the angriest record ever made. I mean, and people have tried to like convey that in their own way, like copy it, and I just don't think it works because you don't have like the groundwork for. I mean, I'm not going to get into it too deeply, but you know what I'm saying. Like that was their intent, and they pulled it off. It's the same with another great record that I highly advise if anyone listening should check out if you want more secrets of where, or at least my songwriting comes from. It would be the band the Black Tongue with their record Nadir, because that's pretty much my entire inspiration for everything I do, combined with hardcore and Suicide Silence. So if you want the little secret, there you go. Take Iowa, take the cleansing, and take Nadir, and you have my mind 24/7.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nadir is just, there's so much intent there
Yes.
because they're all just such amazing musicians. Like even like Infant, that there's intent
Yeah.
there to
Yeah.
be like hilarious and super heavy and just over the top. But then and then you can see, okay, so if these guys can channel their intent to be funny and it works so well, what happens when they intend to be like more
Serious and
dark,
dark.
then
Yeah.
you get that record, and it's criminally underrated and
Oh yeah.
underappreciated
Oh
because
yeah.
it's incredible.
Yes.
There's moments in that, like that last song, I forget the name. I'm
Crippled before the dwelling place of God.
chills
Oh
all
yeah.
over, and it's
Oh yeah.
rare for me. But
Yes.
it's just because they write songs and they don't put the like the objective is different. So to say. It's not like Guitarist, which is funny because they're the most like Infant is like the most programmed band in the world.
Yeah.
But still, it's like it's music.
Yeah, I mean, with Nadir, they want you to feel trapped and like you want to, like you're so scared that you want to crawl out of your own skin, and then they succeed because they know, like, they have their intent, they create their sound, and when you listen to it, like you're genuinely scared, and I'm like that's I want to incorporate more of that. I want people to feel threatened and oppressed with the music, because that's just I mean it's that I think that encapsulates metal, especially this subgenre, like the more heavier and darker type. Like, you feel scared and you feel like, it's almost this, like Brian Garris said from Knocked Loose, like there is anxiety in the music, or if you feel anxious when you listen
True.
to it.
True.
And that's what I want to convey more. That's another band that does it perfectly. Knocked Loose does it perfectly with their latest record. I mean, and that's record of the year for me, bar none. There's no, I mean, Kublai Khan was very close. It's right next to it, but to me, like, the vibe that Knocked Loose has is just immaculate.
Awesome. And speaking of being fearful and crawling in your skin and all those themes, this is a question to you both, and I have wondered about this question for a while. What makes Swedish bands so heavy?
I think it's we have some kind of special edition of Mountain Dew or something, or I don't know. Like, we have, no, I'm kidding. I don't know. I mean, it's both the bands that have been produced by Buster that are very good, and it's also bands that have not been produced by him, because I mean, he's the kind of like the heart of the metal scene in this
No, I mean
in this world.
Meshuggah. Take
Oh
Meshuggah.
yeah, also, and I mean, they're the biggest inspiration for Buster and all they do in Viljarda, and it should be so. I mean, there you go. Like, but yeah, also like earlier bands. I don't know. Like, I think I've heard like it's a Swedish thing. Like, we're not that big of a country in population, and yet we come up with so much quality stuff, not just with music, but also like outside of music. I'm not sure what it is.
Zlatan
Um,
Ibrahimovic.
yeah,
Yeah,
He was my idol growing up.
yeah, nice.
and
Yeah, I
the
think he
butter
was everyone.
knife.
Oh yeah. Also Swedish invention. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have an interesting take on, since you asked both of us,
Yeah.
if I may. Or were you finished?
Yeah.
So my earliest memories, like in school, is that you have these things in Sweden for some odd reason. It's called priest subjects, prästämnen. Heter det. Anyway, so it's music, it's art, as in like learning to paint, and then there's it's not arts and crafts. It's basically wood shop. It is half of it, and then it's sewing.
Yeah.
Vad fan säger man textil?
I mean, just using a
Threads and shit, like sewing machines
Yeah,
and
it's
all
called
that.
suing.
yeah.
Yeah, suing.
Yeah. So, and then number 4 is music. So you get those 4 from when you start like first grade up until 9th grade in the Swedish system. And then you can obviously pick for basically upper secondary school, which we all call high school at this point to translate, but then you can pick what you want to pursue. But during those years you have music in school and art and woodshop, and you also have like PE, which all schools have. But then on the side, like everyone here has like this side activity thing. I know. Did you play football?
Yeah, I did when I was very little, but then I switched to other sports, and like you said, like there was always a lot of like creative outlets in school, even when we're like very small. Like, they start early, and you get to really like explore your creative side in a lot of different like types of like woodwork, or art or music, and then you like kind of like find your way
Yeah.
within something like most people do.
And then say someone discovers a passion in school when they're taught music, then you have what we call, I translated directly would be culture school, kulturskola, where you can choose like an instrument and or dancing or whatever. And so I think most of us in Sweden, like it's the norm that most kids at some point in their lives played an instrument outside of school and a sport. In my case, I was a swimmer and I played guitar after school, and we had music in school. And there's like the government throughout Sweden's history has been extremely like had very high regard for the arts and culture, and like there's always a high priority on stuff like libraries and culture and music, because you don't want it to die, because you always see stuff like ABBA is an early example, or our music business, like take songwriter and hitmaker Max Martin, who is Swedish, and like Buster now and Meshuggah and like
Avicii.
Avicii,
Yeah,
exactly. I
yeah,
think it's just like the encouragement and like not being pressured like in other countries to do stuff. Um, it just enables people to really explore and themselves, and because this might like I don't want to come across as like Sweden is the best or something like that, but I know in other countries people tend to idolize because there unfortunately there's not as much of a priority on music and stuff like that. It's always idolizing someone, or like I picture someone wearing the football jersey of their favorite football player. It's always idolizing, and when you idolize you can't really explore anything, because no adult is encouraging you to that you can be like them. It's always you can just idolize. And I think in Sweden no one's conditioned to idolize in the same way, because you can. You can go to like we have one in my city as well, but there's tons of them I think in Stockholm, where there's just like a center for teens to hang out at, and there's oftentimes a music studio there, so anyone can go and like spit bars over a beat, and then they realize that they have creativity. So to sum it up, everyone's creativity is like encouraged here for real, which I'm extremely grateful for.
yeah.
And
Dude, I am just in awe listening to this because I'll share you a completely different perspective. Like growing up, I would say till around I was 15, I used to feel shameful to show my love for like art, dance, and music. Because no, firstly, nobody ever asks you what kind of music you listen in school. Like no other kid asks you that, hey, did you check out this record or something like that? Firstly, secondly, if you show that interest, they are like, hey, you are doing this, you are doing that. It's more about a conformity situation, that okay, we are students, we are supposed to study, and everything else is like you're
oh yeah,
wasting your life and stuff.
oh yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, man, I mean, I can't, I mean, I just like wonder, like what if I was in a place where at a very young age, because I if I even wanted to listen to music, even though my parents never told me anything, just because of the pressure from the society and stuff, I would never play music out loud,
Yeah,
to like just to give a vibe of what kind of music I was listening to my parents, because I was ashamed, like I was very scared that hey, they will say that probably this is shit, but I like it so much that I don't want them to know and stuff.
yeah,
um but
conformity,
so yeah,
yes.
man. Yeah, conformity is a bitch, and I just love the fact that you guys don't have it. And secondly, the idolization stuff, dude. India is the home ground of worship culture, and I don't blame people here because we were colonized by a lot of people, and that has led us to being on the low, like as you would call it in apex, the high ground and the low ground. We were on the low ground, sadly,
Yeah.
for the most part. And and yeah, I mean, it's my personal goal. I mean, Sina knows about this, but I want to break that chain
The
somehow.
BPS, as you
Yeah,
put
the
it.
BPS. Yeah.
There's
Mm.
like we you can study music in high school as your like special, like all the other guys in the band did except for me, and you won't be shamed for it. That's the difference. Like in another country you would probably be shamed, or your parents wouldn't agree with you, because why on earth would you study music? But here it's not really the case, and I'm very glad that we have that here. And I'm not trying to like throw shade at any other country, but I'm just trying to explain why I think Sweden has such a like such respect in the business, and why Swedish musicians are the way we are, because we don't idolize. We believe in we're taught to believe in our own creativity to
Yes.
some extent,
Yep.
which is very important, as not only as a human being believing in yourself, but as a writer, especially like Oscar and Theo, because yeah, and it's, I think, role models as well, adults, like the way teachers, their philosophy on how to reach kids, it's very like as a, yeah, believe in yourself based, or yeah.
I mean, yeah, I hope my kids are born in Sweden then. But yeah, man, that's just lovely to hear. I am so glad that that's the case with you guys. And like other countries, like to some extent, especially like, in Asian stuff, should try to incorporate that to some extent, because it's always just superficial and for show purposes and not actually something that helps. But anyway, we can do an entire podcast on that if we have to. But
Yeah.
it's about you guys today. So are there any more cultural cues that like help promote the metal scene in Scandinavia in general? Like could be fests and stuff. Something in particular that you guys have like noticed that's not a case anywhere else?
Mm, I don't know. Not sure. I mean, like we just the whole culture scene, or like music scene or art scene in Sweden is just so, it's like everyone's invested in it, because you're from a young age, you explore that type of stuff, and your personality and your creativity, and so it's just like, just I think it just comes out very naturally in Sweden and in Scandinavia, but mostly Sweden, I think. uh that kind of, I'm sorry if I misunderstood your question, but
No, that's totally fine. What I was trying to get at was, are there any like uh, music culture promotional festivals or things that
Oh,
you know make it more like make metal music more accessible in
oh yeah,
Scandinavia, in the
oh
whole of
yeah.
Scandinavia? Yeah.
Yeah. There's a ton of festivals in especially Sweden. I mean, we have everything from smaller festivals, like one that's called High Five Summer Party that we went to, where we didn't play, but we went there last or this year it was, and we will probably play that festival next year. Then
Nice.
you have Sweden Rock, which is the biggest one in Sweden. You have Gävle Metal Festival. You have Helltown. You have a bunch more like smaller also festivals and stuff like that. So and also it's been a lot of fun to see, because those festivals have begun like picking up like not smaller bands, but bands within our genre more, and so the core genre has been coming out more to the mainstream, which it has been globally as well. But things are really starting to pick up, a lot of traction here in Sweden as well, where like the local live scene, like with bands playing live in like smaller venues or bars or stuff like that. Like there are a lot of hardcore bands, there are a lot of core bands in general, like heavy bands. It's just not like the typical rock bands dominating all those places. Like there are a lot of like heavy bands playing as well, which is very cool, and we're very honored to be in that wave of upcoming like bands, not just like internationally on Spotify or YouTube or whatever, but also like playing live in front of an audience here in Stockholm or Sweden. Like just even though it starts small, but we're seeing that it's growing very very quickly.
yeah,
Sina, do you have anything to add?
it's a very tight knit community. The scene is very tight. Everyone knows everyone, because we're Scandinavia is pretty small.
Yeah.
If you look at it like compare like in the grand scheme, it's a tight knit community. And like HLB played Sweden Rock, and for context, Sweden Rock is something that it's not just about metalheads. It's everyone who was a rocker in the 70s. Like in the 80s, you had like in the 80s when like Oscar's parents, for example, our parents were growing up. It was you were either a synth guy or a rocker. Syntar och rockare, du vet.
Mm.
And it was like life and death, those two. And the people who were rockers when they were kids, they still go to Sweden Rock. Like it's like a family activity to some even. It's a huge festival. And for bands like HLB to play that, where Kiss and like I think Kiss has played there.
Yeah, Motley Crue, Ozzy
Molly
Osbourne,
Crew, yeah,
Metallica.
and then having H means that they're up to date. It's not just like a corp fest of like where they're so high up top that they don't see anything like below the clouds. It's actually like they know what's going on, and that's like pretty good. And I guess it all ties back to like the Swedish or Scandinavian mindset on things. It's like music is music. It's not. I'd say even though it'll always be a business, it'll always be about cash. Sweden is the least like cashy, so to say, because of how much it's giving back in music. Like even in my city, there's like this little festival thing that's this annual festival thing around town where small artists like fill up the whole town. Like every bar and venue is full of artists every day, which helps the restaurants and bars like keep open, but also a platform for artists to play. And there's been like hardcore bands who have played that festival, and so that's one of like the cultural cues of how it works, is that everything's interconnected, and through like political help, I guess, and like monetary help to these organizations, it's a
Yeah.
very tight knit community. It's not like the same two people who run everything. It's actually very connected, and it's like even my university has a connection with that festival, which has connections with like record labels and so on and so forth. So it's like a very elaborate music culture like thing. It's not a conglomerate, but it's big. If that made any sense.
That made a lot of sense. Don't worry about it. Yeah, man. It seems like you guys have all the means to access music. That's wonderful. Um, Coming back to Silver Lake, your guys' latest music video for Pariah was insane. Like, bro,
Thank you.
the and I know that you guys work with Rivera to for the music video. So tell me about obviously it must have been through the alt videos that you guys found out about them, right? Or was it prior to that?
So I found them through. I can't remember the first one I saw. I think it was HLB. I think the first Riivata video. Yeah. I think the first Riivata video I ever saw was Earthless with
Same.
HLB. And I thought it was
Okay.
like, whoa, like this is they. And the first thing I thought was that HLB. I was like, they stepped up their production for their videos. Like I was like, whoa, like they went like all in on their video. And I know that a lot of reaction channels also not only reacted to the music, but were like, this video is nuts. Like who are these guys? And so that's where I think Riivata really picked up their pace. And I know they had been working on with a lot of bands, and they have done videos for a lot of bands and also their own band, the Atlas, before. But I think with Earthless, that's when they were like they really reached a very like a much wider audience. So that's when I saw them, and then after that you saw them on every HLB video. I started seeing them on Alt, which I can't really remember when I started listening to them, or when I found them, but yeah, I saw they worked with Riivata as well, and so it was very, and we were like talking or thinking about different people for our first video, which was Smoked. So we were speaking like internally about like different people to do the video or like whatever, but when we reached out to them, they were like they were just very straight to the point, like very simple, like this is how we do it, this is the cost, this is whatever. And we were like, can you do this style? And they were like, yes. And then we just like, cool, let's just do it. So they were super, like both guys, Patrick, Thomas, shout outs to them because they're super cool guys, super easy to work with. They're such nice guys. And so when we did our first video, like that was our first ever music video, ever standing in front of a camera doing a song, like, and they just handled it perfectly, so that we could perform our best at that time. So we've evolved our stage presence in front of a camera quite a lot since then, but they helped us out a lot. And so when we were thinking about doing a music video for Pariah, we were like, there's not even a debate about going with anyone else. Like they're the best. They're amazing people, and they're so easy to work with, and just let's just do this. So, and we felt like, because we got a lot of traction in the online space from Smoked with the video. I know like Nick Nocturnal and other people reacted to it, and were like very shocked by like how like both the song but also the video, like combined, at least for that last breakdown, was very very hectic. Like I saw that got a lot of traction, um, which was really really fun to see, and we were very very happy with the result. But for this video, we were like, okay, so we wanted to be less about like, like being super obnoxious and just like last breakdown, like look at this, and be all like trying to grab attention. We were trying to make something a little bit more mature, a little bit more refined, a little bit more character in terms of like color scheme and stuff like that, instead of trying to just do the regular pissed core where everything is just flashes and like a seizure. So we wanted a little bit more class, a little bit more character, a little bit more warmth, but still keep it heavy. And I think Riivata really really nailed that, I mean, to a T. So we're
That's
super happy
really
with it.
awesome, man. I mean, from the looks of it, like, I think I've seen one or two behind the scene videos as well. I mean, I think Sina even hurt his hand trying to, like, mash his hand into. So I want to know from you, Sina, like, what got you? Like, was it just the environment of working with, like, those guys, or like, was it the song? Like, what got you so pumped?
I think I think I placed my foot like a bit weird, and I tried to do like this guitar swing headbang thing, and I just like lost my balance and ended up falling on my hand, and the headstock just hit the ground, and I think I fell forward, like fell onto onto Thomas. So that's why how I hurt my hand, and I don't know. It's obviously this song. Like I fucking love Pariah so much. It's a very emotional song for me as well. Like with the lyrics, I really relate to them. So good on you, my friend. But mostly it's just that the guys that, like, every horror story you've heard about directors being like having their heads up their asses and being like, cut, no, you didn't look good there, like, cut, oh, you look like shit there, cut, let's get that makeup done. Like, they're the complete opposite of that. Like, I asked them on my solo take, like, is there any specific guidelines? He's just go hard, and like that's like the
And
get
that's
go.
all they say. Like that's all
Yeah,
that's your cue. Like just go
and,
hard, go
and
all
that's
in.
not them being like nonchalant. It's them intentionally knowing exactly how to extract the artist's like persona and personality and making them feel comfortable. And I mean, that's something I just like am in complete awe of and aspire to be, and aspire to be able to encapsulate just making an artist feel safe, like as a producer myself. And Oscar and Theo being in having Primordial Hand, they're producers and mixers as well. It's something everyone can like attest to. Like as an artist, you've definitely had, and I know we in Silverlake have had that experience as well, when you're with talking to a professional who's looking to work with you, and you just feel so like not heard, and just it doesn't feel right, and their ego is so hideously apparent, trying to tell you how you suck, and they're gonna make you good because this, and then yeah, we definitely experienced that for sure with, and they're the complete opposite of that. So
Yeah,
I guess that's how I hurt my hand, because you just unleash because you feel safe. And I'm not comfortable in front of a camera by any means, and I felt comfortable with them. So it just attests to their like to them being so professional. And maybe it has to do with Finland, but it just worked really well.
yeah.
And I
I mean,
get why everyone's making videos with them now.
yeah, for sure. I mean, they're straight to the point. They make great quality productions, and you can't really ask for anything more than that. So they're just the goats.
Yeah, man.
They just get it.
I think that's really important when you are a service provider, to make sure that people, like, especially when you're reputed enough, that people don't feel scared to reach out to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because then it makes that, that okay, they are too unreachable. And to what I from the looks of it, like, they're the complete opposite, and that's awesome to hear. And I hope you guys, like, because Pariah's music video is super sick, and if, yeah,
Thank
if
you.
you guys work with them in the future, like, like it would be awesome to see more of them.
Yeah,
Just saying, like, yeah.
we're definitely working with them again. I mean, we're gonna do
yeah,
a bunch of
100%.
stuff with them. So you're gonna see more from us and them collaborating for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I recently got to know that you guys played a really sick show, and that too on a very last minute. So going back to the point where Oscar said that you guys are always ready to go. So I would love to know from both of you about, like, a spontaneous show like that, and what it takes in terms of, like, being ready to just, like, get the call and, yeah, we are going to perform like 8 hours before notice and kill it.
Yeah, I mean that was it was just a crazy day, to be honest, and a crazy night, because it was just so like we were all just doing our regular stuff. Like it was I think it was a Tuesday. uh I was literally going to the bathroom at work at the office, where I was just about to start, and I got a call from a guy that arranges a lot of shows here in Sweden in general, not just Stockholm. And he just called me like, "Yo, like, can you play this venue tonight? You're opening for like this Linkin Park tribute band." And I, without even knowing like if anyone can play at all, I just say yes, because like I was like, yeah, yeah, we can play. I'm just gonna talk to the guys. I'll get back to you, and that's all I said. We were like, cool, hear from you later. And then I just called the guys on WhatsApp, like in a group call, and just like, yeah, we're playing the show. Like, um, what are we doing to solve this, because we need to play this show. Like, and I was like, there's going to be like 350 people showing up or more, and we're just like, we have to play the show. uh and then I, like, we all just individually made it work. Like, we're all very privileged in our positions. Like, we can, like, I can take a couple hours off to go early. My Theo can as well. Our drummer works with his dad with their own company, so they can decide a little bit on their own. So we just kind of like just solved it, even though like I said to the guy that, yeah, we can play, but I didn't even know if anyone like was like, yeah, I'm gonna go do this, and I can't play tonight. Like, I had no idea if anyone was gonna say something like that, but I was just like, yeah, we can play. But in terms of like being ready for like actually performing and playing, like we rehearse so much in our rehearsal space, and we play our instruments like every week. We practice, we talk, and we just like, we're always ready to play our set. We practice through our entire set list every time we rehearse, so we always have the set list like ingrained in our heads, and the songs are just always there. So when we step on stage, it's like rehearsing. Like, we just go, the set list done, we just go, and we're like always ready to perform.
Fuck yeah, man. And Sina, how was it like for you? Because you had to travel uh, from Örebro to Stockholm.
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, I was just like I just woken up. I was having cereal. I was feeling fancy, so I put some blueberries and raspberries in like the bowl of cereal and this, and I was just chilling, have breakfast, and my dog was next to me, and then we get like this WhatsApp call from Oscar, and the venue we played is actually a like very legendary, dare I say, venue here in Sweden. Like, we've seen a lot of our favorite bands there, and we've been saying like one day, like a few years from now, when we get to play here. We didn't know it was going to be like so
Already,
soon.
like,
I
what
mean,
the fuck.
so I just booked a train and I skipped class. And the funny thing is, when I got back the next day, like they are like we had like this mixing seminar the next day, and our mixing professor literally goes, "How'd it go?" And I'm like on 1 hour of sleep. I woke up at 5 a.m. and took a train. I was like, "Huh?" And he's like, "The gig." So that's like the support I got from school. I think the only one who got the short end of the stick was Marcus because he couldn't take time off work. So he literally got there like 45 minutes before the show because I had to bring like my bass for sound check.
Yeah, and
But
I had to play it.
yeah, he had to play bass, but we made it, and it was awesome. Like we were back there. Like our drummer Johan's dad is essentially like our pep guy and manager, and he just like gets everything done. He's such an amazing dude. Like I love the guy. We were literally doing like the group hug thing, doing like the whole shaking thing, like yeah, like getting ourselves hyped, and it was just it was a cool experience. Like we were all on standby. It was nervous. I'm not gonna lie, but I was just like pumped, like on the way
Yeah,
there,
me
like
too.
so pumped.
At this point, like for shows like that show and the one we had after that in Örebro a couple of weeks ago, it's transitioned from being nervous for playing to being just like ecstatic about it, like just being like not nervous at all, like just pure excitement. Like I know that everyone's gonna perform well, even on a bad day. Everyone's gonna perform well, including me, and everyone else. And it's just like, so now I'm like never worried like how I'm gonna sound, how it's gonna look, nothing like that. I'm always like, this is just gonna be fun, like this is awesome. Like, and we're like, before we were like, damn, like shows that's kind of hard, like we're nervous and stuff. But now after like the two last shows, both the one that was on short notice and the one in Örebro, we're like we want to play tomorrow, like we want more shows, like that's all we want to do. So we're just
Yeah.
waiting and trying, we're just waiting for the next call. We're trying to book shows on our own, and we're just trying to play as much as we can.
Yeah, I think like the ratio between dopamine, cortisol, and adrenaline is finally where it's supposed to be at.
Yes.
So where everything doesn't sound slowed down and you don't have this knot in your stomach. It's more like almost like competing in a sport now, where it's like you feel locked in. At least for me,
Yes,
I notice
me
it
too.
in my bandmates as well. Like when we play live, everyone's just locked in and happy.
For sure.
Like
Yeah, man. And when you like something so much, like there are literally no excuses. Like you had every reason to reject that offer of playing tonight, but you guys are really pumped about your music. And I do know of like a band that got a really, like, I had a chance to open for a really big band, but the guitarist was like very very short-sighted and was like, no, we need at least 15 days of prep to get everything right, only then we can do it
good
and
mindset,
stuff like.
great mindset. That's how you get
Yeah.
far in life.
Yeah, no, if we would have gotten a call from like a big band to play, we would just like, what time do we have to be there? Like we
Yeah, I
don't need
mean,
to know anything, like just what time we'll be there, like that's it.
Because
yeah,
we know
and
we're
that's
gonna
when you know
rock.
that you're confident in yourself. Like
Yes.
with my podcast too, like if I get to interview literally anyone, like I would be like, yeah, dude, give me 5 minutes, I'll be on the call with you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see where you guys are coming from. That's like a very great sign that you guys are all on board, and like as like a unit and very well tight, and ready to go. So
Yep.
um I think I've mainly covered whatever I wanted to ask you. So Silver Lake Murder, can you tell me, or the people that are going to watch slash listen to this, that if you guys have new material coming out, when is it
Yes.
coming out, and what can be expected from it?
So what we currently, we're gonna release a couple singles going forward. Not exactly sure when the next one's gonna come out. We're still talking about it because we're since we're self-managed, we are all putting our own money into it. We are discussing like what to prioritize, where to put our money right now. Do we invest more into the live situation, or more into like the next music video? So we're still talking about that internally, and we'll see we'll see when the next song comes out. But we're trying to collaborate, with people and labels to make it happen for the next couple singles, and hopefully I can say that it's going to be an album. Uh, we've showed it to a lot of people, and so it's not really a secret. that it's an album that we're dropping, and it's finished and everything. So it's gonna be a couple of singles from that, and just more live shows, hopefully, and yeah, see where it goes from there, basically.
Yeah, we're not gonna drop a single every 2 weeks, but at least you'll know that there ain't no half-assing shit here. Like it's gonna be the
Yeah,
same quality as Pariah, if not more, every
If
time.
not more,
And I
right?
ultimately think that's the better way to go. Like maybe wait a few months between the singles instead of just rushing things and having like a haphazard self-made visualizer.
yeah, dude, I
Yeah,
get what you
yeah.
mean. Yeah.
And also with in terms of writing, what's gonna be like the upcoming stuff, it's definitely gonna be more towards a very different style from at least Still Unknown. It's gonna pick up because I think Pariah is the perfect bridge between our previous EP and this album. Like that track is just like it's both the EP and the album like in one song. But going forward, it's not gonna be like that pissed core. Like it's still gonna be very very pissed off, but it's still not. It's not gonna be that. You're not gonna be able to put us in the same kind of like box of the typical bands that you would think like in like Dealer, Alpha Wolf. Like we're not gonna. It's not gonna be that anymore. It's
Yeah,
gonna move on.
you're gonna be your own element.
Pretty I mean a lot of bands say that they have their own sound, but I truly believe that this is going to be very very like our sound. Like you're going to be able to hear that this, because it's all down to us being like five members writing together, and not just me sitting in front of a computer for every single song or every single riff. It's just it's developed a lot from that. So the coming tracks are going to be it's going to be, I think, a lot more emotion attached to it, because the previous songs were like, to me, like I just feel like there's just much more raw emotion in the coming tracks, for sure. So and a lot of different styles, more death metal, a ton more death metal, ton more like dare I say like hardcore, not like pure hardcore, like punk hardcore, but more towards like a hardcore sound, and more death, just more death metal, and just combine that with breakdowns. I mean, yeah, you get
You
deathcore.
won't be able to
You won't.
stand still. You
No.
won't be able to not move. I mean, me, I'm from a very different world from the other guys, and I'm probably gonna get shit for bringing this example up, but fuck it. I always think of Asking Alexandria when they dropped Reckless and Relentless, because Stand Up and Scream was like their first. It was pretty. It was their style, but it was pretty safe. And then when they came with Reckless, and it was heavier, it was lower, the mix was harder. Like like Joey's mix was better, and the riffs were so much heavier, and they had brought like rock and roll, like the bounce from rock and roll back into the genre. And those tracks from like Reckless before they went to shit and became soft, but that's second release that they did, how much heavier it was, how it built upon the first album in every sort of sense possible, how Oscar has improved massively as a vocalist, and Theo's production has improved massively,
Oh yeah.
just like Danny had improved so much with like his vocals and in Asking, and how that was like their that leap is present here, and the same leap. And now I'm getting really self-grandizing, but with like when Slipknot went from the self-titled to Iowa, that leap where everything. I'm not saying we're gonna be Slipknot, but I'm saying that leap in from release 1 to release 2 is definitely
Yes.
gonna be there, and you will
Yep.
feel it. That I
Yep.
can say. And coming from the outside, since most of this was written before I joined, I can say that this shit is next level.
Yeah,
Seriously.
I don't doubt that one bit. I don't doubt about your guys' originality, because like when people like actual like in person, like when you get together and you make anything, especially music, it's like no other feeling can match that, if it makes sense. Because Sina and I wrote a track like literally bar by bar, like Will Gags. Like it
Yeah.
was like, Sina, you write a bar, I'll write a bar, and nobody expected us to make such a mad song, and we did it. And it's just like when you know someone, like, not just as a musician but as a person, like it finds its way into your music. I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes Sina would just tell me that, dude, I wrote a riff like you. I don't know what's wrong with me. And I'll be like, Sina, I wrote a solo that sounds like you. I don't know what's wrong with me.
I
And
think
stuff.
one interesting thing is a lot of our friends, like me and Prey, because we had this collab project, and I think a lot of people are used to emailing riffs back and forth and like piecing them together. I don't think a lot of people do what we did because it takes more time. But writing stuff literally bar for bar and bouncing everything back, it can be exhausting if you're more of a solo person. But ultimately, just having someone else's pushback makes everything better in music. You can feel it and you can hear it. Like the guitars on this album when we tracked it, it was me, Oscar, and Theo, and we were tracking like the whole day, and then like they had like a barbecue at their house, and we just ate dinner, and then we went and tracked again, and you can hear that on the album that it's like it's not like faked. It's actually like real with pushback and people and feedback and all that stuff.
Yep,
Yeah,
for sure.
that's awesome, man. I'm really, really excited for your guys' journey together as a band. I have been, like, watching you guys grow over this past like 1 year, ever since like you guys started putting out stuff, and I'm really excited to see where it takes you guys. And yeah, if you both have any final thoughts about anything, like, please, this is the segment.
I mean, I'm just thankful that we get to do what we're doing. It's been just being a band in general, like we are right, like where we are right now. Uh, I did not think that it would come it would come this far. Like my perspective on like commercial success is very like I don't that's not what I care about at all. Like what I care about is us five having fun and playing together, playing shows together and putting out music that we love, and whatever happens after that's what happens after that. Even though we want to reach higher, we're not gonna like you said that like we talked previously, like if anyone doesn't want to work with us, doesn't want to do this or whatever, then we're just like, okay, we're just gonna do our own thing, and that's perfectly fine for us because we just love what we're doing. Like we don't need we have dreams, and we are aspiring to be greater, but we don't need that. We're perfectly satisfied because we're doing what we love, and that's how can you ask for anything else. So
We do what we love, and we love each other.
yeah.
That's what I've been
Oh man.
noticing. The friendships that we forge, we're all friends, and we all get together and talk about shit that's not like business and music. Like we're actually, and this has happened late, like within, like it's just evolved into like that. And I think that's the most important thing is like not being in it just for the business aspect, because when that happens, you get one direction. You get what happened with them, and when everyone's just so like when people are not like we're thrown in and not friends in that way. So I would say just a love for music and a love for each other, and
Yeah.
is ultimately the greatest gift you can have, because in the end we're all going to leave this world, and we'll leave all the money and success behind, and it won't matter. It'll be what you did and your experiences. That's going to be what lives on.
Yes.
And a memory of like us in the rehearsal space laughing at someone else's fart is far greater than money,
Yep.
I'd
Yeah, for
say.
sure. Yeah, couldn't have said it better. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so the real journey was the friends we made along the way.
Full
Sin
Yes.
and
circle
Oscar,
moment.
Full circle
it
moment for
was
sure.
a pleasure having you both. I had a really great time talking to you both, and
Likewise.
thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for
Yeah.
having us.
Thank you for having us. We're truly so appreciative, and thank you. Thank you.